The Atlanta Hawks have a Trae Young problem. The Atlanta Hawks have been stuck in mediocrity ever since their surprise run to the conference finals just a few years ago. The thing that made the 2021 Hawks so surprising was that the 2020 Hawks were terrible. They went 20-47, and then at the start of 2021, the Hawks were terrible again. After their first 34 games, they were 14-20, so they fired Lloyd Pierce and hired former Pacers head coach Nate McMillan. And it absolutely proved to be the right decision. The Hawks ended up going 28-11 in the final 37 games, finishing their year 41-31, respectable record, and then surprisingly made the Eastern Conference Finals, which delivered some iconic moments like this.
In the appropriate, you are in the garden, you might as well take a bow.
They cleared out for him, backing his way in, spins on Gallinari, gives it up, oh, he was right there.
So then you would think a team who's led by a 21-year-old in Trae Young, who just made the Eastern Conference Finals, would be successful 4 years later. And that's not the case. Since then, they have 146 wins and 156 losses. And now this season, they're 26-30. This is not good at all when you have a 26-year-old supposed to be franchise player who's in the prime of his career just rotting away on this middling team. The truth is, Trae Young is a part of the reason why the Hawks are mediocre. Since 2022, there's only been 3 players that have a season averaging at least 23.5 points per game, 9.5 assists, and 2 threes made per game. In 2022, Trae Young started this club, and then he had to wait all the way till 2024 when Luka joined, and now this year, Jokic is on pace to join. The thing I'm forgetting to mention is that Luka and Jokic have only had 1 season fitting this criteria, while Trae, he's done it every single year since 2022. Since 2022, Trae Young is averaging 26.2 points and 10.4 assists per game. That sounds amazing, right? Well, since 2022, there's been 102 times where a player has averaged at least 23.5 points per game. Trae Young appears 4 times on this list, as he's averaged at least 23.5 points per game each of the last 4 seasons. The thing is about that, his box plus minus has dropped in the ranking each season. In 2022, he ranked 40th. In 2023, he ranked 43rd. In 2024, 84th. And then now this year, 102nd. Box plus minus tries to calculate a player's value per 100 possessions. So to visualize this, what I did was I made a tier list of guys this season based on their box plus minus. Here's where the last few seasons look like for Trae Young, starting in 2022. In 2022, Trae Young's box plus minus of 5.2 would have put him in the All-Star worthy category this year. Both 2023 and 2024 would put him in the good starter tier. As 2023, he had a box plus minus of 3.3, and 2024, he had a box plus minus of 2.6. But this year, there's been the steepest decline out of any other year, as his box plus minus is 0.1, and that would put him in the average starter tier. And obviously, we all know that box plus minus isn't the only stat that matters, but it does show you that he has regressed at least a little bit. Here's the reality of this whole situation. Trae Young is one of the best offensive engines we've ever seen, but his defense is what kills the Hawks. Out of every 20-plus point per game scorer this season, Trae's negative 2.6 defensive box plus minus ranks as the second worst, only behind CJ McCollum. Putting it into perspective of how it's hurting the Hawks, when Trae Young's on the floor, the Hawks' defensive rating is 115.8, which would put them as the 5th worst defensive rating team in the NBA, tied with the Toronto Raptors. But when Trae's off the floor, the Hawks' defensive rating goes to 113.2, which you might say, that doesn't sound like a big difference. Well, it would put him as the 12th best defense in the NBA. So Trae's killing the Hawks on defense. And the other big drop-off in his game has been his efficiency. Currently, there's 48 guys averaging at least 20 points per game. And out of those 48 guys, Trae Young ranks 37th in true shooting percentage, as his 56.1% is actually the second worst of his career. Only his rookie year was worse. It might sound like I'm hating on Trae Young, and that's not the case, because without Trae Young, the Hawks' offense would be horrible. When Trae's off the floor, the Hawks' offensive rating is 105.9, which would rank as the worst offense in the NBA. The Wizards, who actually have the worst offense in the NBA, have a 106.6 offensive rating. But when Trae's on the floor, the Hawks' offensive rating goes all the way up to 115.1, which would rank as the 12th best offense in the NBA. When Trae's off the floor, the Hawks' offense is historically bad, as the 105.9 offensive rating when he's off would be the 7th worst of any team since 2020. So what he's doing is essentially carrying what would be a horrible offense without him to a top half of the league offense this year. But he's turning what would be a top half of the league defense into one of the worst defenses this season. The other way he's helping the Hawks win games is because Trae's been one of the most clutch players in the league. Trae has the most clutch points in the NBA. But this is exactly why the Hawks are stuck being mediocre with Trae, is because he's so good on offense. He's so good at making the Hawks a good offense, but he's horrible defensively. I don't know how the Hawks are currently constructed, how this would ever be fixed. Let's stop talking about statistics. Let's actually dive into the film and show you what is going on with the Hawks and what's going on with Trae Young. Okay, let's start off with this. Look at the situation. The Hawks are up 2. There's 5:17 left, and Trae has the ball with 14 seconds left on the shot clock. Trae starts off resetting the offense, and he's being guarded by Paolo Banchero. And when a slip screen gets set, Trae lets it rip from the logo. That's the thing about Trae. He can hit these really deep shots, but they're not the most efficient shots. That's why his efficiency is definitely taking a hit. But here, it's a very clutch shot. But one possession later, let's jump forward. With 7 seconds left in the shot clock, Trae's in isolation against Paolo. This is a key possession in this game because with the Hawks up 5, a bucket could blow this game wide open. Trae has a loose handle here and turns it over. This directly leads to 2 points for the Magic and making it a 3-point game. And this has been a problem for Trae. This is something I didn't even mention. Trae leads the league in turnovers. So that's another issue that he's had all season, and he's had his whole career. He's had a bit of a turnover issue. One game later, let's look at this possession. The Hawks are down 8, and Trae looks like he's about to get posted up by Mikal Bridges, which is obviously not the matchup you want. So the Hawks play help, leaving Zachary Richer guarding both Brunson and Cat at the top of the key, and so Mikal Bridges kicks it out to Brunson. But the problem is, after the kickout, Trae Young needs to come up to the top of the key to guard Cat, and he just stays at the top of the paint. And you see right here, this is what happens. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about Trae hurting the defense. It's a lazy effort here, and it results in 3 points for the Knicks. This next clip is in overtime. The Hawks are down 1 with 3 minutes and 28 seconds left. The shot clock has 18 seconds on it, and look where Trae Young is about to shoot from. Like, what are we doing? How could this be the shot with 18 seconds on the shot clock? And this ends up exactly how you expect. This long shot leads to a long rebound, which leads to easy transition points for the Knicks. Hawks down 3. So let's end this off. What do the Hawks do? Can you overcome Trae's defensive deficiencies, his turnover problems, his bad shot selection at times? Because if you believe you can build a roster that can overcome that, Trae is one of the best offensive engines in the NBA. If they seriously believe they can overcome Trae's deficiencies and he can be the best player on a championship level team, they're going to have to do something in the offseason. I don't even know what that is. Because right now, how this roster is currently constructed, it's not going to be good enough to get past the 7, 8, 9, 10 seed in the East. And they're going to be exactly where they've been the last 4 seasons. But we kind of seen what the Hawks actually do think about Trae. When they traded DeAndre Hunter, it kind of signified that they don't really believe in Trae. And it's kind of pushing towards maybe Trae will get traded during the offseason. I believe is the best course of action for the Hawks because you're going to get a lot for Trae. He's a great player, and other teams need point guards who can create that type of offense. For Trae himself, if he does get traded, a team is getting one of the best offensive players in the NBA. Yes, he holds his baggage, but I really think he could be a missing piece to a team who's trying to contend now. But that team is already going to have to be a good established defense to overcome Trae's defensive issues. I think teams like the Magic, like the Heat, like the Timberwolves are good places for Trae to land. Because if he goes back to Atlanta next year and they try and run this core again, they're just going to still be mediocre. That would absolutely suck because Trae is such a fun player when he's winning. And I want to see him actually contend. And I want to see moments like we saw when they made the Eastern Conference Finals again. As it currently stands, the Hawks are just going to be exactly where they are right now, unless they make a drastic decision in either trading for another star or trading Trae Young. And I'm interested to see what happens in the offseason for the Hawks. Okay, guys, I just want to say thank you for watching the video. Please like and subscribe. It means the world. We're really trying to grow this channel, and I know you guys supported the last video we posted. So I just want to say thank you for that, and see you next time.